It has been another big week of wall-to-wall, non-stop, penis-to-penis coverage of Donald Trump's trial, from the lingering glamour shots to the trial merch store, to a rudimentary court treasure map, to second-by-second real-time closed caption transcripting, and a QR code you can scan for more coverage. And I guess MSNBC's in-room dining menu. Why would you need The ubiquitous coverage is numbing, fading into televised wallpaper with insight that only occasionally crackles through, such as...
He greeted her at his hotel room in satin or silk pajamas.
Which? Both are smooth materials, but satin or which? I need to know.
She said I had my clothes and my shoes off. I removed my bra. We were in missionary position.
Missionary. No wonder Trump has locked up the evangelical voting bloc. Unlike those Democrats and their devil doggy style. Their devilish. Tell us more.
Not wearing a condom.
Don't tell us any more.
President Biden threatening to withhold more military aid if the Israeli military carries out an all-out assault on the city of Rafah.
President Biden halting a weapons shipment of 3,500 bombs to Israel.
We paused one shipment of high payload munitions.
Oh, my God. The Biden administration has paused one shipment of 3,500 munitions of the over 300,000 munitions Israel has already dropped on Gaza to try and prevent the Israelis from attacking the area where all the refugees of this war are currently sheltering. I mean, oh my God. Or to put that another way.
And now what the Biden administration has done is they become the primary protector of Hamas.
He absolutely is siding with the terrorists.
The only reason they're not dancing in Iran is because they don't believe in dancing.
Joe Biden has been the greatest friend to Hamas and Hezbollah that there is on planet Earth.
Amen.
Damn, he's good.
Yes, nothing says gravitas like, hey, the terrorists, everybody. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. You people are children. That came out wrong, but... I am curious, why would Biden halt that shipment now?
I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers.
If they go into the population centers? The whole place is a population center. They've been in the population center for 6 months. Gaza's all population center. You know what you never hear around Gaza? Yeah, I don't live in the populated area. I live in upstate Gaza. I live by the lakes. It's really quiet there. Is there no one who can offer a more nuanced analysis of our newly formulated position on this conflict? Preferably in some type of catacomb or echoey tunnel?
What Biden is doing with respect to Israel is disgraceful. If any Jewish person voted for Joe Biden, they should be ashamed of themselves.
My apologies to you, Rabbi. Thank you so much for taking time off of your condom-less porn star hush money trial to deliver a shame lecture to Jews. I will reflect on your moral standing next Yom Kippur.
Let's kick things off right here in New York City, where week 3 of the Donald Trump hush money trial kicked off with a stern warning for the defendant in chief.
We just got that decision from the judge on whether or not Donald Trump has, in fact, violated his gag order again. And the judge has decided that, yes, Donald Trump has now violated it for the 10th time. And he said going forward, if Donald Trump violates it again, he will consider jail time.
You've done it now, Donald. If you violate that gag order for an 11th time, the judge is going to really consider jail time. I mean, he's strongly contemplating the possibility of consequences for your actions. Oh, just one more chance. Look, I get that no judge wants to throw a former president into the slammer, but Donald Trump has the mind of a toddler. If there's one thing a toddler understands, it's that when mom and dad start counting like 9, 9 1/2, 9 3/4, the brat has already won. Whether Trump is thrown in jail for a few days over the gag order or thrown in jail for a few years for the hush money scandal, he's still going to be the next president. So, let's get into the latest news in our ongoing... Look at the polls, everybody. Let's get into the latest news in our ongoing coverage of Indecision 2024. Right now, the presidential race is all about the Veep stakes. And over the weekend, everyone desperate to be Trump's running mate gathered in Mar-a-Lago for a classic Trump beauty pageant.
There are a lot of special guests that are on Donald Trump's shortlist for VP. And Donald Trump today at Mar-a-Lago during that fundraiser actually called a series of them up on stage and praised them.
About Senator Tim Scott, he said, as a surrogate, he's unbelievable. On Congressman Michael Waltz, a man that knows more about the military. When I want to know about the military, I call him. Kristi Noem, somebody that I love. Senator Mike Lee, I love your haircut, and he's a good man too. Representative Hunt makes the best commercials. Congressman Byron Donalds, I like diversity. Diversité, as you would say, I like diversité.
Wow. Subtle. Byron Donalds, I like diversité. What a clever way to say that he's black and maybe French. I don't know. Diversité sounds like the name of a stripper Trump once slept with. I have no evidence of that, of course, maybe because he paid her that hush money. But some VP candidates are showing more hustle than others. Like, a lot of them denied the 2020 election results, but Senator Tim Scott was on TV this weekend pre-denying this year's election results.
Will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
Well, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
This is how humiliating it is to be on Trump's team. Normal questions become trick questions. Do you accept the election results? Should you look directly into an eclipse? This is not a hard question. It's like when the band comes out and says, "Are you ready to party?" Just say yes and enjoy Imagine Dragons like a responsible adult. Come on. Of course. One of the top contenders for Trump's VP is South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. She's got MAGA credentials, she's got executive experience, she's got Fox News anchor face. If you ask me, the race is hers to lose. There's really nothing she could do to ruin her chances.
A governor thought to be a contender for Donald Trump's running mate this November is responding to the backlash over a story in her new book. It's a story about shooting her puppy.
Okay, maybe that might hurt her chances. I'm not a political expert, but I think if I had to give a politician advice, I would say the top thing is to not shoot your puppy. The second top thing would be to not write about shooting your puppy. Look, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she has a good reason.
In the book, Noem says she shot and killed her 14-month-old puppy named Cricket for bad behavior.
Noem describes leading the 14-month-old dog to a gravel pit to be shot after concluding it was less than worthless, untrainable, and aggressive.
As a mom, I made a choice between protecting my children and protecting them from a dangerous animal that was killing livestock.
Noem posting this response on X saying, "We love animals, but tough decisions like this happen all the time on a farm."
That is not an excuse, Kristi Noem. You can't just go around executing puppies and say, well, that's life on a farm. It's a farm, not international waters. And for bad behavior, I mean, even Cruella de Vil is like, Jesus, at least I was making a coat. Was there really nothing else that could have been done with a misbehaving puppy? Training, medication. I mean, worst case, send the dog to a nice family upstate. That's what my parents said they did with my dog when I was a kid. And he still sends me a birthday card every year. How cool is that? Now, Kristi Noem's defense is that she had no choice because the dog was untrainable and a danger. Although if you read her book, the carnage doesn't stop there.
You put it in a part of a chapter called Bad Day to Be a Goat. And then after you shot the dog, you, quote, realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. Walking back up to the yard, I spotted our billy goat.
What did the goat do? It sounds like she saw it and was like, well, I can't leave any witnesses. She could have. Yeah. I mean, come on. She could have at least given the goat an opportunity to prove its loyalty. Like, here's the gun, you shoot the dog. Don't forget, nobody forced her to tell anybody these stories. These are the stories she chose to tell to seem tough for the MAGA base. In this book, by the way, was No Going Back supposed to be the title? Or was that what her editors said when they read this section? Are you sure you want this in? There's no going back. I mean, what were the alternate titles? For God's sake, don't include this. Not sure if you're kidding, LOL. Were you hacked? I don't know. And by the way, Noem is not letting up on this. In fact, not only is she willing to shoot her dog and goat, now she wants to shoot other dogs too.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is not backing down, defending her decision to shoot her own dog, now implying President Joe Biden's dog Commander, which no longer lives in the White House after several biting incidents, should be put down. She reportedly writes that the first thing she would do if she got to the White House is make sure Joe Biden's dog was nowhere on the grounds. Commander, say hello to Cricket.
Dear Lord, this woman has a taste for dog blood. It's like she thought all dogs go to heaven was a personal challenge. Why? Why is she going so hard on dog killing? Can cats vote now? What, did I miss that? Let's move on to America's Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump. It's now week 4 of the Trump trial, and boy, time flies when you're constantly falling asleep in court, doesn't it? But I can guarantee you Trump didn't nap during today's testimony, which brings us to our latest installment of America's Most Tremendously Wanted.
The whole thing is a scam.
Today was the biggest day yet in the trial of Donald Trump because today, Stormy Daniels herself took the stand. And you could tell from the start that the coverage was going to be delicate.
Right now in the courtroom, our reporters in there are sending us notes, updates every second that they can. And Mr. Trump's defense attorney, Susan Nichols, is saying, quote, "We're informed the second witness today will be Stormy Daniels. We want to renew our objection to her testifying particularly about any details of any sexual acts. That is Mr. Trump's attorney. The prosecutors is also saying, quote, in terms of the sexual act, it will be very basic. I can't believe I have to read this on television. It's not going to involve any descriptions.
Better you than me, Jon
It's not going to involve any descriptions of anything in particular. So
just read it.
Oh, come on, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Acting like you're too good for this, like you've never seen genitalia before, all right? You're very prudish for people whose names sound like porn names. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash in State of the Union. Yeah, oh. They're gonna smear Kanish all over your Wolf Blitzer, you know? Now, the crux of this case is that Trump allegedly paid Stormy Daniels hush money to cover up their affair just before the 2016 election. And today, Stormy Daniels told us exactly what all that money was hushing, starting from the very beginning of the night Donald Trump invited her for dinner in his hotel room.
Daniels testified that when she first entered Trump's hotel suite, he greeted her wearing silk pajamas. She says she joked that he stole Hugh Hefner's pajamas and asked him to change, which he did. According to Daniels, when she asked Trump about his wife, he admitted that he and Melania sleep in separate beds. After speaking with Trump for a while, Daniels told Trump he was rude and didn't know how to have a conversation. Someone should spank you with that magazine, she told him. She says Trump then rolled up the magazine and, quote, gave me a look. So she took it from him, told him to turn around, and swatted him on the butt.
Oh. That poor magazine. Hasn't print media suffered enough? Spanking, silk pajamas, separate beds. These revelations are so uncomfortably personal that even Drake is like, ooh, sucks to be that guy. But if that stuff made you uncomfortable, hold on, it gets worse.
Daniels testified that at one point prior to them having sex, Trump told her she reminded him of his daughter Ivanka, saying they were both smart, blonde, beautiful women who people underestimated.
Hashtag girl dad. Look, I know it's old news to us that Donald Trump wants to smear Kanish's daughter, but remember, the court worked hard to find an unbiased jury, which means there's at least one person on there who was in a coma for the last 10 years. And I bet that guy is losing his mind today. Are you hearing this? Are you hearing this? That's the president and his daughter and a porn star. Oh, wait till my friend Prince hears about this. You know what? Maybe the actually damning part of all of this is how Trump got Stormy to have sex with him. According to Daniels, he suggested that she could be on The Apprentice. Later, he stripped his underwear and told her, quote, this is the only way you're getting out of the trailer park. Yikes. So, Trump isn't just a bad lover who thinks talking about his daughter is an acceptable form of foreplay. He's a creep who dangles career advancement over women to get them to have sex with him. Because, Lord knows, they're not in it for the 2 minutes of thrusting. And personally, I find it disappointing. I mean, who would have thought a man found liable for sexual assault would coerce a woman into sex? I mean, honestly, it's like you can't even trust sex offenders these days. Let's kick things off with the huge trial that threatens to destroy a politician's career. Not Trump's trial. He'll get off scot-free. No. I'm talking about public opinion versus Kristi Noem, South Dakota governor and big fan of the last 2 minutes of Old Yeller. The mainstream liberal media has been coming at her for days just because her new memoir has a little story in it about executing a puppy. So now she's turning to her base on conservative media to find some support. But it turns out that even they are having a hard time with this.
What happens if you are debating Kamala Harris and she says, well, wait a second, you shot your dog?
I never tell anybody about personal conversations.
Did the dog story come up in a conversation with Trump?
I talk to President Trump all the time.
About the dog?
About a lot of things.
Governor, if you asked me a month ago, who's at the top of the list to run with Donald Trump, I would have said your name. If you asked me that same question this morning, I don't even think you're on the list.
Oh. These people are harsh. You're not even on the list. Not on the VP list, not on the cabinet list, not even on Craig's list. I will say, for the past few years, I have been wondering how far is too far for the right-wing MAGA crowd. And now we know. It's shooting your dog in a gravel pit. That is not acceptable until Trump does it. Then every Republican has to shoot their dog just to stay in the party. So, kudos, right-wing media, for putting your foot down against killing dogs. You can hold your head up high and go back to your regularly scheduled segment, Why Don't We Toss the Migrant Kids into the Grand Canyon? Check out this. It's a very compelling segment. Every Wednesday at 9. But not everyone in conservative media had their knives out for Kristi Noem. In the bowels of Newsmax, Eric Bolling tried his best to throw her a lifeline.
Governor, I've also written a couple of books, and I know how the process works. You write some chapters. You don't write the whole book at once. You write a chapter or two. You send it to the editors, and they edit. They read it. They add. They subtract. And here's my question. The editor. The editor. Was she possibly a plant, a liberal plant?
A liberal plant editor, Eric. She wrote the book. She wrote it. You can tell conservatives don't really believe any of their conspiracy bullshit by how casually they try to fit one into any scandal. Just say your editor was a liberal plant, Kristi. Maybe your dog was trying to rig the election. Maybe your dog was DEI. Is that something? I don't know. Just pick one. Like, believe it or not, shooting her dog isn't the only scandal about Noem's book. There's also a story about when she met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, where she wrote, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Except she had to take that story out because she never actually met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. And she says the story was put in there by accident. And she took it out as soon as she found out, even though she wrote the book and recorded the audiobook. And if you're wondering, didn't she find that out when she recorded the audiobook? You're not the only one.
You said when you learned of it, you immediately took action. Mm-hmm. You recorded the whole book, the audiobook. Mm-hmm. You read this whole passage out loud. Why didn't you take it out then when you read the audiobook?
You know, I've traveled for years. I've been involved in policy for almost 30 years. And so I've gone all across the world. I've met with world leaders.
So you didn't realize when you recorded the audiobook?
When it was brought to my attention, and I asked the publisher if they would remove the name, and they did.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. When you you posted pictures and video of yourself recording the audiobook. When you recorded your own audiobook, you didn't notice
I'm not going to discuss about my meetings with world leaders.
I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you about recording the audio.
Did you want to talk about something else today?
For God's sakes, can we talk about something else? I shot a dog once. Did you hear about that? Kim Jong-un is not someone you forget meeting. He's a madman. No one's ever like, yeah, I met Hitler. Oh, wait, Adolf Hitler? I was thinking of a different one. Greg Hitler from Tampa. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah. Look, I know we've been talking about this Kristi Noem story for a few days in a row now, but she lied about meeting Kim Jong-un and she shot a puppy. I honestly can't think of a political story that could be crazy enough to push that out of the news cycle.
In a new report, Robert Kennedy opens up about health issues from a, quote, worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died.
What? I don't know what's worse, that RFK Jr. had a worm that was eating his brain, or that his brain is so poisoned it killed the worm. It's so wild that we've all been joking about how RFK Jr. must have brain worms, and then he actually has brain worms. It's like if the weird kid in class came back from the doctor with a note saying, actually, Kyle does have stage 2 turd face. Please let him get his affairs in order. Now, the Kennedy campaign is dismissing the notion that the dead worm in their candidate's brain could cause any cognitive problems. But the story actually came out because the New York Times found a 2012 deposition from Kennedy's divorce in which he argued that his earning power had diminished because, quote, I have cognitive problems clearly. So I guess his argument now is, no, the worm didn't eat the president part of my brain. Just the part that has to give my ex-wife money. And as if this story couldn't get any weirder, it turns out that Kennedy discovered the worm because he was getting tested for brain fog and memory loss. But doctors said it probably wasn't the worm that was causing the brain fog. It was more likely that he had severe mercury poisoning from eating too much fish. I mean, no wonder RFK cares so much about climate change. He's legally a thermometer. And so how will this affect the race? Probably not much. I know the idealists out there would love to vote for a perfect candidate, but we live in the real world, okay? Does RFK Jr. have a worm in his brain? Sure. Trump's brain is just 2 possums and a squirrel. Biden's cerebrum is riddled with slugs, you know? Would it be nice to have a candidate whose head is full of all brain? Sure. And I'd love a puppy too, but Kristi Noem shot it. Grow up.